PEB has released their recommendations, and we're going to touch on the couple of the bigger deals here, whether it be obviously wage increase, and then we're going to look at attendance policies, which is a big one, primarily BNSF's high vis policy, and insurance. Look at the possible insurance increases also. So what we're looking at here, this is the summary. This is the recommendations from the PEB on their increases, and it is going to be a total of 22%. The unions were asking for 28. The carriers are proposing 16, and they came to 22. So all the PEB did was they just went in the middle. But I don't understand. I've read through the arguments on both sides when it comes to wages and the inflation, and it's pretty technical, and it's all of this, and they just keep going back and forth between these different metrics, these different, I don't want to say metric, I guess they are metrics, different metrics between inflation. But like the Department of Labor reports, the CPI is the most widely used measure of inflation. The use of the CPI-W is calculating adjustment of Social Security benefits, federal services, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a piss match between the unions. The carriers strongly urge the board decline to rely on the CPI at all, and instead use the PCE, a measure of change in the cost of living. So you see, the union is hollering at the CPI, which from what I understand is the carriers have used CPI in the past, but now the carriers are saying, look at the PCE, whatever the PCE is, but it's obviously lower than the CPI. And it's just a piss match going back and forth. Like, y'all are looking at these different metrics, and you're looking at these different people who come up with inflations, and the carriers have just kind of backtracked, and they've went to this PCE because it's lower than the CPI. But when it comes to wages, that's what you're looking at. That's what they proposed. Do I think it's enough? No. Y'all know where I stand on this. I even think the union is being kind of, light on this, just because of the just because of how the carriers have treated their employees since 2019. 28% seems to be a little bit on the low side to me, but this is what the PEB recommends when it comes to your wage increase. They're saying 3, 3.5, 7, 4, and 4.5. And we'll scroll back down here so you can see it again. Right, there's 100 and something pages of this. So again, this is what the PEB is recommend with $1,000 recognition bonuses from 2021, 22, 23, and 24. And yeah, it's going to be a pay increase, but I think I don't think it's fair. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm not surprised. When I read to you about the attendance policies, you're going to see how this PEB has really, really sided with the carriers for sure. So let's go to attendance, because that's a big one. The unions were asking for call time, some days off, and when I read you this, it's probably going to piss a lot of y'all off, especially you BN guys, and you have rightfully so. So here's the attendance policy, and I'm just going to read through this pretty quick. I'm not going to read all of it, but it basically says the BLET and the SMART TD propose that the existing attendance policies, to the extent that they were not the product of negotiations or an agreement. So they did, we all know Farmer just came in and just started the high vis, didn't negotiate with the unions or nothing, just put it in place. So the unions are telling it to be voided, and that the general Committee of Adjustments enjoy the discretion on a carrier-by-carrier basis to invoke mandatory negotiations on the subject for attendance rules and requirements. So they're pretty much saying that y'all have to negotiate and bargain with the unions on attendance policies. Carriers protest that this intrusion on management rights is unwarranted from a legal end, and from a practical perspective could lead to enormous increases in work unavailability and cripple the carriers. The carrier's ability to operate the railroad and service shippers in a timely fashion. A newsflash, y'all haven't done this to begin with. since PSR and you furloughed all your employees, y'all can't do this anyways. In fact, you do the exact opposite to your employees. You don't give them time off and you make them come to work when they're sick, when they're fatigued, and you don't give them the opportunity to be off when they need to be off. That's the problem. And for some reason, this PEB didn't address it, and it's pretty pathetic. It's pretty pathetic. The BLT and SMART argue that the circumstances surrounding the revision in both the terms and application of the carriers' various attendance policies, citing particularly the BNSF high-vis policy, have created irreparable harm to employees who are effectively being forced to work when they are sick and or fatigued. I just said that. The organizations note that the adoption of PSR have resulted in sharp reduction in size of operating craft working forces. We all know that because they laid off a crap ton of their workers. The unions allege that the current attendance policies are being abused by the carriers to coerce employees who have legitimate reasons not to report to work to do so anyways. Correct. We all know this is true. The only way that fair and appropriate attendance policies will be promulgated is if they are bargained. And here we go. This is what the PEB says. It says, while we understand the views expressed by the unions regarding the carriers' attendance policies and their implementation, we remain unpersuaded that the appropriate response is the one contained in the BLET and SMART TD proposal. Down here at the bottom it simply says, the board recommends that the BLET and the SMART TD withdraw their attendance policies proposal. Really? Really? All of this with high-vis, all of these T&E employees speaking out, letting everybody know how bad this policy is, how much it's just bad. It's just bad. And the PEB don't have the guts to go against these carriers on attendance policies. That speaks volume to me. That speaks a lot of volume. That just goes to show you, in my opinion, that the PEBs have been, the members of the PEB have been making some serious money. So that's another big one. Attendance policy is out. Wage increase, they're in the middle of the carriers and the unions. When it comes to health insurance, that is the other big one. And from what I have read, which is a lot of stuff that I just don't understand, it's like rates would increase to around the 300 or so to 320 per month, if I remember correctly. Let me scroll back up here and see. For 2023, 24, and 25, after including the estimated increases, overall plan cost, the monthly contribution rates would be respectively $321, $340, and $366 for Tier 2 employees with spouse and family. If the monthly employee contribution were uncapped and set to 15, maintained single tier, the increased cost would be $295, $308, and $326, and $366 for 2026. So there's your rate increases, if I read all that correctly. And it looks like it's going up. Almost $100. $100 for 2023. It's going to go to $320 when it was $220. And I don't know what to say. I'm not surprised. Do I think the PEB is going to, did this resolve anything? No, it didn't. I think we're going to go back into another 30-day cooling off period, and then the railroads will have the right to seek self-help strike. Do I think it's going to happen? Maybe, but if it does, it's not going to last long, and then Congress is going to get involved. That's my theory. I could be wrong, but this is just pathetic in my case. The biggest issues that need to be addressed aren't being addressed. This is just a lump sum. This is just a little blip of what this whole 119-page recommendation pretty much from the PEB consisted of. If we scroll down to the recommendations, this is really just the arguments between the carriers and the unions, and pretty much the recommendations is the wages, health and welfare. So, and then as far as everything else, personal day, you want to get one more personal day a year. Woohoo! Good luck getting that approved. And then the allowance is going to be, I think it's got to get passed down for the T&E guys. It's going to be passed down. They have to return to the bargaining. And then automated bidding system pulls an extra board going back to bargaining with the carriers. Nothing's going to. So basically all it is insurance, wages and a PLD, and then guys for travel gangs. That's pretty much it. That's all the PEB did. After all these other 115 pages worth of negotiations and back and forth, this is all they came up with. So I don't think this is going to go anywhere, just my opinion. This PEB completely dropped the ball. And, I think we're going to go to another 30-day cooling off period, and then self-help is on its way. And we'll see what happens. The only downfall to self-help is whenever it goes to Congress, what's done is set in stone. I don't think there is no way out. So that's the downfall. And, I don't know how long that might take, but we'll see. Anyways, hope you guys are doing good. Appreciate you guys being here. And we will see what happens in the next couple of days as far as the response from the union, and see what happens. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.